From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight: U.S. law enforcement agencies are investigating threats against the grand jury responsible for indicting former President Donald Trump in connection with election interference in Georgia. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office is working with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to determine the source of these threats and ensure the jurors are safe. The threats surfaced after the jurors' names and addresses were posted on a far-right website. The 98-page indictment accuses Trump and 18 co-conspirators, including Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows, of participating in a criminal scheme to overturn Georgia election results. The indictment alleges this group formed a criminal enterprise that engaged in various illegal activities. Trump faces 13 criminal charges in Georgia, including violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Charges include solicitation of a violation of oath by a public official, conspiracy to impersonate a public official, and conspiracy to make false statements. They are part of a series of legal challenges Trump has faced since leaving office, ranging from hush money payments to manipulating election results. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's investigation stems from a January 2, 2021 phone call that Trump had with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Trump asked Raffensperger to find 11,780 votes, the exact number Trump needed to win the state. A Texas woman has been arrested for allegedly threatening to kill the federal judge presiding over former President Donald Trump's 2020 election interference case in Washington, D.C. Abigail Jo Shry is accused of threatening to kill U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan and longtime Democratic Texas Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. She called the judge's office on August 5th. 2 days later, she was arrested in Alvin, Texas. Shry admitted making the call to the judge's office. Shry's father testified at her detention hearing that she was not violent and suffered from a drug addiction. Her arrest warrant alleges she had already been charged with threatening bodily harm and was out on bail when she threatened Chutkan. Shry is charged with violating laws that criminalize the transmission of a threat to kidnap or injure a person across state lines. The maximum penalty is 5 years imprisonment. A foreign national was sentenced to 22 years in prison for sending ricin-infused letters to then-President Donald Trump and Texas law enforcement officials in September 2020. Ricin is a lectin and a highly potent toxin produced in the seeds of the castor bean plant. Pascale Ferrier holds dual Canadian and French citizenship. She admitted to making ricin at her home in Quebec, Canada, and putting the toxin in envelopes with letters she wrote to Trump and Texas officials. She had been detained in Texas for nearly 10 weeks in the spring of 2019. In September 2020, she posted on Twitter that someone should shoot Trump in the face. Ferrier sent all letters from Canada to the U.S. On September 20th, 2020, she was arrested at the Peace Bridge border crossing in Buffalo, New York. Border agents found a loaded firearm, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and other weapons in her car. Law enforcement intercepted her letters to Trump and Texas officials. Ferrier was charged with 2 counts of biological weapons interdiction in 2 separate criminal cases. She pleaded guilty to both counts on January 25th, 2023. Her sentencing hearing was June 2nd, 2023. Police have returned items seized during a raid on a Kansas newspaper office. The co-publisher of the Marion County Record announced the items will be subjected to forensic analysis to ensure they were not tampered with during police custody. The Marion County prosecutor said he requested the return of the items because he found insufficient evidence that support of the alleged crime of unlawful acts involving computers and the seized items. The seized items will be returned in line with the demands of press freedom advocates who sharply criticized the police operation. Publisher Eric Meyer said he believed the raid was prompted by a story about businessman Carl Newell. Authorities said their investigation was focused on what they called identity theft, according to the search warrant. Items seized by police included cell phones and computers. Joan Meyer, co-owner of the Marion County Record and mother of Eric Meyer, died Saturday, a day after the raid on their shared home. Eric Meyer said the stress caused by the raid played a vital role in his mother's death. A Muslim house of worship on the campus of Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, is open to the public after being closed for more than 2 years. The King Khalid Mosque has been closed in March 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When mosque leaders attempted to reopen the mosque in 2021, the university refused, saying it was not yet ready to do so. The decision sparked protests from mosque community members who argued the university was discriminating against Muslims. In April 2022, the university and Muslim community leaders agreed to reopen the mosque for the next 3 years. Under the agreement, the mosque will pay a monthly fee to the university for operating costs. The agreement also provides both sides with negotiate in good faith for a long-term solution. If no agreement can be reached, the matter will be heard in court. Al Raider, a representative of the Council on American Islamic Relations, said the fight is not over. More details on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency finding toxic substances in drinking water comes after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has found toxic polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, in the drinking water of 26 million people. These chemicals are used in a variety of products, including nonstick cookware, waterproof clothing, and firefighting foam. PFAS has been linked to several health problems, including cancer, low weight in infants, and suppressed immune function. Environmentalists are calling on the Biden administration to finalize drinking water standards as soon as possible. The two PFAS most found in water systems are PFOS and PFOA. The Safe Drinking Water Act requires U.S. utilities to test drinking water for 29 different PFAS compounds and publish the results every 5 years. Katie Pelt, a scientist with the Natural Resources Defense Council, said the PFAS test results show tap water is highly contaminated. The bipartisan infrastructure bill signed by President Joe Biden in 2021 provides $9 billion for investments in communities whose drinking water is contaminated. However, other bills to limit PFAS have failed in Congress due to intense lobbying by the chemical industry. Hundreds of Palestinians held by Israel have started an indefinite hunger strike. A rights organization says nearly 1,000 detainees from all Israeli prisons staged a hunger strike to protest the aggression of the prison administration. The director of the Palestinian Prisoners' Press Office, Ahmed al-Qudra, urged Palestinians to mobilize and to take to the streets to support the detainees. Tensions broke out after the Negev prison administration in southern Israel raided the 3rd and 4th sections of the prison and transferred detainees to another area. Israeli authorities are yet to comment on the issue. There are around 5,000 Palestinian detainees in Israeli jails, and at least 1,200 of them are held without charge or trial. Swedish intelligence has raised the country's terror alert level to high following angry reactions in the Muslim world to Quran burnings. The previous alert level was elevated and had been in effect since 2016. The new high level is the second highest on a scale of 5. The head of the Swedish security agency, Charlotte von Essen, said the decision was due to the worsening situation regarding threats of attacks in Sweden. She added the threat is expected to continue for a long time. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said planned terrorist attacks have been averted and people have been arrested. The recent wave of Quran burnings in Sweden has sparked widespread outrage and condemnation from across the Muslim world. In July, Iraqi protesters stormed the Swedish embassy in Baghdad twice, setting fire to the compound the second time. The Jeddah-based Organization of Islamic Cooperation has also expressed disappointment with Sweden and Denmark for not acting after the arsons. Kristersson said Sweden was making intensive diplomatic efforts with Muslim countries to calm the difficult situation. Just earlier this year, right-wing Swedish-Danish activists burned several copies of the Quran to denounce Islam and Sweden's application for membership in NATO. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said Belarus would be prepared to use nuclear weapons provided by its ally Russia in response to foreign aggression. This comes amid rising tensions on Belarus's borders with the countries of NATO. In an interview with state news agency Belta, Lukashenko said Belarus would interfere in the war in Ukraine only if Ukrainians crossed its border. He reiterated Belarus's commitment to help its ally Russia and warned of an immediate response, including nuclear weapons if provoked. Lukashenko rejected claims Russian President Vladimir Putin had been weakened by the mutiny of the failed Wagner mercenary group. He stressed that Belarus has an interest in participating in peace talks on Ukraine because of its proximity and involvement in the region. Moscow used Belarus as a launchpad for the spring 2022 invasion. Joint military exercises between Russia and Belarus last year have fueled concerns that Belarusian troops could join Russian forces in the conflict. And in June, Russian nuclear warheads reportedly were delivered to Belarus as a deterrent. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.